Hey, what's up? Um, so I need to rant this one out. I was sitting and meditating, and it just kept coming back and coming back and coming back. Um, so I used to, I've always had trouble sleeping. Like at least an hour had to pass before the thoughts were anything manageable, and maybe half an hour more of trying to manage all that mess in my head before I could actually fall asleep. Melatonin helped quite a bit, but since I've started meditating like more than 4 hours daily, I've really noticed something. So, I always hated meditating in the morning, and I always hated meditating in the evening, which are my favorite, my favorite, um, both times of the day and times to meditate. But when I eat a large meal and I meditate, it's so fast. I like become dull and droopy, and I'm fighting with not sleeping, and because I just tend to fall asleep. And when I'm sitting, like my head will droop. And I was like, maybe I can use this weird phenomena because it's like when I meditate, I either get too restless and all jumpy and everything. Like after training, I can basically not keep myself down. Not as if I can't keep sitting and trying to meditate. It's just that my thoughts like run away with me and blah blah blah, and suddenly I'm talking and commenting on whatever is in my thoughts, or it just becomes like a narrative. While when I get very dull and droopy, the way I get distracted is significantly different. So it's not so much a concept that appears and like triggers this huge narrative. It's more like a feeling of a concept, maybe a picture or a sound bit of something, and it's way more dreamy. And what I see behind the eyelids becomes more, instead of like just like almost blackness with slight coloration shifting, it like ephemeral images come, and the thought process is more emotional, gut feely, dreamy. um so I've tried starting to notice the difference between the two. When I sleep a lot, when I eat a lot, it's like the total bandwidth of my mind decreases. Like the resources I have that I can allocate for different tasks in total are just less. So, attention and awareness. So if I allocate a lot of resources, a lot of my mental bandwidth towards a subject, it it becomes more of, it's more attentive. It's way more attention like than it's awareness, like being aware of, yes, it exists, but, and not that much more. And the scope also narrows down some. So I'm really attentive to something, the detail is really fine, but the scope of what I can actually pay attention to also decreases. If I'm doing math, it requires insane attention. um I've had girlfriends talking to me while doing math, and like, Dean, 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 Steen. Oh, wow. Are you even listening? So what? Okay. Um, so often when I meditate, I select an object to either pay attention to or stay aware of. Quite often it's breath. The second most often would be my emotional state, how I feel inside, and how it changes, and in what direction it changes, and the rate of change. And third, more most used by me would be what is in my visual field. So if I put a lot of bandwidth on, let's say, just the sensation of breath, then I can follow how that sensation is changing with time quite closely. But I can at most be just slightly aware of what thought processes are beginning. I can also do the other way around. Just be slightly aware that breath is taking place inside of me, but really pay attention, like anything, what's happening. Is there a thought? I call it thought hunting. Because I'm like, what's the next thought? What's the next thought? Come here, come here, come here. Fish, boom. Fish, I see you. And when I see the thought and I say, I see you, it usually dissipates. If it's really important, it doesn't dissipate. Then I ask myself, is this actually important enough to think through? If yes, I allocate the time to think it through. And once thought through, it will not disturb me anymore. If I just keep putting it in the cage and it's really important, it will just rattle the cage more. Um, so, when I've just eaten, the total bandwidth I have to allocate between some sort of object or thought hunting is just way less. So I've noticed when I've trained and I'm restless and I get all jumpy, it's as if the point where focus originates, it's like definitely somewhere in the forehead, and the focal point is right here. Like I'm really like paying attention to this shit. And when I become dull, it slips like it feels like I'm falling a bit behind into myself. The point of origination is like, if it had a point of origination, it feels somewhere like in the back of my head, and it's not focused like that. It's like I'm staring out to eternity. It's like broad. And I use that to counter the state I'm in. So when I'm restless, I really try to fall back into myself and have this broad field of view, like big scope but low detail. And if I do that quite a bit, it calms me down. And I notice that because when I eat a big meal and I do that, instantly I'm like, instantly. And when I'm like, okay, sharpen it up and like, look at this, I tend to wake up more. So by noticing how the onset of becoming restless or dull kind of like traced me into how the process unfolds. And some of the parts of the process I can influence. And if I influence them in the opposite direction, then I can balance it out more. Now there's the caveat to that, because when I get dull and droopy, if I like really not see it, like really, I kind of pendulum hard into restlessness, and it just becomes like a pendulum between restlessness and dullness. So it really has to be subtle, like easy does it. I've also noticed that Dullness for me has something to do with boredom. If I'm too bored too long, I get dull. And what I've also noticed with boredom is that when I'm really paying close attention, like the level of attentiveness is high, I cannot be bored at the same time. It's as if attentiveness and boredom are mutually exclusive. So when I get dull, I can like reinvigorate like my intention to keep attention on the meditation object. And the meditation object can actually be thought hunting itself. So I can become my own object. It's kind of weird. I have to experiment more with that. So if I do, let's call it dullness meditation, like where I'm trying to like get more dull. When I've just eaten, like the droopiness part, between 5 and 10 minutes, I have a timer. So sometimes I watch like, okay, this is happening what time? Okay, this is happening what time? So I get a timeline. So between 5 and 15 minutes, if I do that, if I don't try and prevent it, actually, it just comes. It doesn't come. It has like a series of steps, and the earlier I catch it, the less intervention it needs to be corrected. But I've noticed that if I really focus on like doing the dullness, the looking far out meditation, within 35 and 45 minutes, I get like these Zen lurches where I kind of almost fall asleep, no matter what. So for sleeping, I just do that as much as I can. And when I get that, I just immediately stop my timer and lay down to sleep, and I sleep within minutes. I mean, if you don't have sleep problems, you wouldn't even get why this is a problem. If you've had sleep problems Jesus Christ, his arm is falling off. Thank you. If you had sleeping problems like me for all of your life, you know that this could be actually quite significant if it's mastered. Now, if I miss the window, then I go into more a restless time kind of meditation. And after that, it can be really hard to fall asleep. So normally when I meditate, I want to like go just slightly into dullness and just gently pick it up out of dullness and center it in that nice center line where I can keep the meditation nice and smooth with very few distractions. But the last meditation right before I go to sleep, that is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for sleep aid. So that's what I do. So don't miss the window, Steen. And there's no real risk of penduluming too hard if I'm just looking for the window, because as soon as the signs come that I'm dull, I just lay down. I'm not trying to prevent it. What more could there be? Maybe that's it for now. But anyway, a lot of this thingy I'm talking about, I learned by on purpose meditating right after a big meal to get dull on purpose. It was something. What the fuck was it? Fuck's sake. Yeah. For fuck's sake. There's a term coined. I think I'm gonna stick to that. I should like write stuff down when I think of it so I don't remember. Anyway. Hey, what's up? So I thought of something that I forgot to mention about the meditation. And I have completely forgotten again what it was. Well, anyway, you know what time it is.